Next, welcome RYE Chair Rohan Gleeson from D9710 Australia to come up to the stage. Welcome.
最后是来自澳洲9710地区 RYE 主委 Mr. Rohan Gleeson， 掌声欢迎。
Firstly, can I acknowledge the appreciation of Pauline and myself and the very warm welcome that we've had with your introductions and to be part of this wonderful conference. We bring warm greetings from Rotary Youth Exchange Australia Chairman Frank Portelli and the Australian District Chairs. The exchange process between Taiwan and Australia is very young, and your efforts to attend our Hobart conference with strong numbers have certainly made a difference as we watch the exchange numbers between our countries grow. Hopefully our attendance at this conference will also help to increase those numbers. As Australians, we see our connection with the Asian neighbours as extremely important. Culturally, we are so different. Yet we need to trade and understand each other, and one of the best ways to do that is to educate the youth of our two countries. It is, of course, an aim that one day we would have exchange partnerships with mainland China. But for now, we are able to bridge the gap, grow and understand the Northern Asian cultures, and build our friendships with Taiwan. For me, some of my most memorable time in YEP has been with James, William and Susan, as we've been at various conferences together over the years, and it is a pleasure for me to be able to reciprocate and be part of this conference with Pauline. Most in this room are going to be surprised to learn that my lineage actually is Chinese. My great-great-grandfather was a cook on the goldfields in far northern Queensland in the 1850s. So maybe I have more than just a passing interest in the development of the exchange program between our two great countries, though I have to confess my language skills are non-existent, unfortunately. I'd like to address a few topics which I hope will help us all to understand where we have come from and where I think we are headed in developing the exchanges in the years ahead. Let me start. Exchanges to Australia are seen as a very safe opportunity for Taiwanese students, and many of you who have travelled to Australia will have experienced the almost casual approach to daily life which we enjoy. Simply, there is not much to get stressed about. Australians have the ability to laugh at themselves and also often find a funny side to many serious debates. Generally, exchange students comment that we work hard and at the same time we play hard, so our work-play balance is pretty good. We do, however, take seriously our commitment to training our students to be safe and confident travellers, to understand that life in a foreign land will be different and that they should never compare two cultures. Because there is no right or wrong, it is just that the cultures are different, and part of the exchange process is to live and to understand something that is different. All Australian districts are fully accredited with RYE and comply with stringent working with children protection legislation. Our expectations are that our inbound students will be similarly trained and prepared for their year in Australia. It is important for inbounders to understand that Australia is a big place and that transport infrastructure is a challenge, and that transport by world standards is basically expensive. Without doubt, the key points are confident personalities and a basis of English. Even with confident young Taiwanese students, we would expect significant cultural differences: shyness, unwillingness to risk talking in English, quiet observance of what is going on, and an unwillingness to ask questions. Host parents in Australia have to get used to probing their Taiwanese exchange student to check that they really do understand what they are being told. This was definitely the case with both Kevin and Michelle in the past couple of years. It is important to recognise that both Australia and Taiwan Youth Exchange counsellors and organisers need to be aware that some students may take longer to settle in than others. Obviously, the reverse of most of this applies for Australian students coming to Taiwan. The Taiwanese hosts will find it just as challenging. The differences for our students and how to help them cope. For Taiwan, it is a language that is so different in all respects. It is also differences in how we live. Let me explain by using some comments from Michelle, Sophie, Kevin and Jerusha. Living in Australia has been a huge challenge for Kevin. Let me just paint a picture. Kevin is hosted by the Yass Rotary Club. Yass, a small rural community about an hour from the national capital, Canberra. His first host family live on a farm some distance from Yass. The closest neighbour is about 3 kilometres. The house is a long, single-storey Australian homestead. Some of Kevin's comments, specific comments are: I have never slept so far away from another human being. You see, Kevin was at one end of the house and his host parents were at the other, maybe 50 metres, maybe a little more away. And this one, it is so dark outside. Yes, it is. Our sky is just an array of stars for those not living in the cities. Kevin was unsettled by sleeping in a totally black room. He was used to movement and light around him and found the darkness very unsettling and had great difficulty in telling his host parents and counsellors that what the problem was, as he did not want to offend anybody. Many European destinations, the host countries have language camps. The current low numbers to Taiwan would probably not allow this to be an efficient approach. As part of the Australian district training camps, we do encourage our students to learn some basic language skills of their host country, but with Chinese it's obviously a much steeper learning curve. Students both inbound and outbound are high academic achievers. Both groups have plenty to challenge them in their host countries, particularly learning culture and language, and we should reduce the education pressure and let them find their own levels, remembering the fine line in the sand should be monitored for boredom, or indeed not being challenged enough. Michelle, for example, was hosted by the Rotary Club of Canberra, and her school was the prestigious Canberra Girls Grammar. Her school counsellor recognised early that in the year for Michelle that she be placed in year 10, but from her application papers, probably year 11 or 12 would have been more appropriate. These would have been the last 2 years of the Australian academic system. But by placing her in year 10, it reduced the academic pressure, and Michelle was able to enjoy the Australian life much more fully, and the benefits of her exchange quickly grew. Much the same pressures apply for students coming to Taiwan. Food is usually a challenge for most exchange students, and it is certainly so with Taiwan. Kevin was at a loss with knife and fork, and it did increase his anxiety. This is just another part of the cultural experience puzzle that host parents and counsellors need to be aware of, be it with a quick and caring mind. Aussies just love to sit and talk. A good Australian slang expression is "we chew the fat." I throw that one in for William, for he enjoys collecting the Aussie slang. It's true, we do like to have a chat about anything that comes to mind. Australian students find Taiwanese girls a lot more outgoing than the boys. Interesting observation. Special occasions in the Chinese New Year. 8. One. Up. Up. No, I've done the wrong way. What Chinese New Year, if you've got the slide, then you have number 8 it is. There you go. Okay. We should have Australian students arrive in Taiwan about the 15th of January. We're a bit different to the Northern Hemisphere, of course. This would better give them a couple of weeks to settle in before Chinese New Year and then be in a better position to enjoy the festivities. How to make happy exchange partnerships with Australia. It's important to recognise that exchanges between Taiwan and Australia are best described as high maintenance, and we did discuss that at some length this morning. This means that we need experienced counsellors at both ends to manage and understand students who face real cultural and living and schooling differences. Finding host clubs and families is always problematical, and to then guide a club to take a student which requires more attention than most is certainly a challenge for any of us in the YEP community. Needless to say, it must be recognised and dealt with so that the student fits into the host country life as easily as possible. Chairs should also recognise that difficulties are likely to arise. Changes need to be made quickly to keep the exchange on track and all parties happy, particularly in the first few months. Next one. All this is absolutely true for both Michelle and Kevin, and certainly Michelle, who you received back in July last year, was a very different Michelle for that who arrived on our shores 12 months earlier. What I can guarantee you is the difference in Michelle is only a shadow of the difference that you will find in a very confident, self-assured and wonderful human being in Kevin when he returns home later this year. In both cases, I've had to work very closely with very dedicated host family teams and counsellors, but the results are amazing and the reasons why so many of us are so passionate about youth exchange. For Jerusha, from her initial application, she had an interest in Taiwan because she wanted to be fluent in Chinese. Her commitment has not diminished, and it is those students we need to find as candidates for the Taiwan-Australia exchange process. Sophie Council failed last year for a number of reasons. I believe her mother never gave Sophie enough space to accept the changes and challenges of an exchange in Taiwan. Because of the continual communication barrage with her mother, Sophie was not able to settle and make her own agenda. How best to get the paperwork done? The use of high quality PDF documents as an initial step does help with timing issues. It is necessary to support these with these soft documents with 2 hard copies posted to the appropriate district chair. The process does work well, and the efficiency of Debbie in the multi-district office is to be commended. I do not believe there are any specific issues which need further attention. To sum up, I thank RYEMT Organising Committee for their invitation to attend this and present at this conference. To William, to James, to Debbie, thank you for your support and friendship. I trust this presentation has provided an insight and a better understanding into the challenges we face with both the Australian chairs and multi-district Taiwan in creating great exchange opportunities for our students. I thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Gleeson. 我们再一次热烈的掌声给这6位外国贵宾，好吗？